Atheists makes this mistake all the time when they have assumptions about God. Let's get right into the video.
And God is not an entity in the world. In fact, I would say that's the fundamental mistake that atheists old and new make all the time, is they think of God as a big being. When Aquinas says that God is not in any genus, even the genus of being, it's one of the strangest remarks in the whole tradition, but it's really interesting. So you say, well, at the very least, God must be a being, right? And Aquinas' answer is no, he's not in the genus of being. So we talk about God being beyond being and so on. To say in God, essence and existence coincide is to say God's very nature is to be. And that can't be true of any contingent thing in the world. So what I'm doing there is I'm gesturing the way the tradition does toward God, using language that's at the same time philosophically precise and gnomic. It's both accurate. It's true. In God, essence and existence coincide. What God is the same as God's active to be. But now, what does that mean? I'm not quite sure, because nothing in our ordinary experience corresponds to that. Everything in our experience is a being of some type. So it's existence received according to the mode of some essence. That's not true of God, which is why he can't be found in the world. And that's, as I say, the fundamental mistake is, I guess theists are those that believe there's this being alongside the other beings in the universe. And then atheists say, oh no, there is no such being. And that's precisely wrong. That's just a category error. Dawkins, I think, cites Bertrand Russell to the effect that proving the non-existence of God is a bit like proving the non-existence of a China teapot orbiting between Earth and Mars. And no, that's precisely what God is not, some entity that's sort of hidden among the other entities of the universe. God is the reason why there's a contingent realm at all. This is the way to put it. In more theological language, God's the creator of all things.
So if God is outside of our world, is it possible for us to visualize, to comprehend, to know God?
Not utterly, of course. And I would say our knowledge begins always in this world, begins in ordinary experience. But I think we can, through metaphysical analysis, through philosophical reasoning, can come to some knowledge of a reality which is transcendent to our experience. So we gesture toward it. I always like Aquinas, who says the language about God that we use is analogical. So it's not univocal, meaning what I say about that, can, or about this bottle, I can say about God. No, that makes God an entity. At the same time, it's not simply equivocal. So if I say, well, that thing is and God is, I mean totally different things. No, I mean something analogous. Mm-hmm. So to be God is to be. So the real meaning of being is the being of God. The being of that thing or this thing, or the being of galaxies or subatomic particles, would be analogous to God's manner of being. So on that basis, I can make some statements. I can theorize, and even at the limit, as you suggest, I can visualize. So we have metaphors for God, and the Bible is replete with those, right? So God is a rock. God's like a lion. God's like this and that. Or the Bible will sometimes imagine God as a human being walking around, Now, only the crudest fundamentalism would say, well, that's a univocal, accurate description of God. It's an image that's catching something of God's manner of being.
Then what does it mean to believe in God? So there's a word, and we have to limit ourselves to human interpretable words today. Mm-hmm. There's a word called faith. What does faith mean? So if we can't really directly know God, you kind of sneak up to the idea of God.
I think this question is really interesting, because what he's getting is like, wait a minute, how do you really comprehend or know who God is or believe in God if you can't actually really understand who God is?
God with metaphors.
Better, he sneaks up on us. Because I like the language of grace. God's action comes first. So if I stay perfectly within the realm of I'm seeking with my kind of eagle eyes and my inquiring mind, I'm not going to find God that way. I might find a path that opens up, but I would say finally God finds me. And I think then the language of faith begins to make more sense. I'm with Paul Tillich, though, the Protestant theologian, said the most misunderstood word in the religious vocabulary is faith. Because he said the way we take it usually is something sub-rational. I have proof of this. I really know this, and I only kind of believe that. That's just a personal opinion or impression. But that's to identify faith with the kind of infra-rational, and that's not it. I mean, I don't want something infra-rational. I don't want superstition or childish credulity. So authentic faith is the darkness beyond reason, and on the far side of reason. It's supra-rational, not infra-rational. And that's a very important move. At the limit of what I can know, at the limit of my striving and my vision, there's this horizon that opens up. And I think that's true even in ordinary ways of knowing. There's a kind of a horizon that lures us beyond what I've got. Faith has to do more with that kind of darkness rather than a darkness prior to reason.
The darkness beyond the horizon, prior to reason. First of all, the poetry of your language is incredible. To be. I have a million questions.
Yeah, go ahead. I do too on this.
So first of all, let me just jump around. You mentioned to be a few times.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Well, to be me is to be a human being, right?
Yeah.
To be this is to be a table. To be this is to be a microphone. So I'll use Aquinas' language. It's the act of being poured, if you want, into the receptacle of some essential principle. So it's got a ontological structure. It's an existent. It's a thing that exists, but it's existing in a limited way according to an essential principle. God. So, well, what's God? Tolkien or someone that writes one of these big sprawling novels, and Tolkien's good too because he creates a whole world. He creates a new nature, a new language, new history, all that. Think of the thousands of characters and the plots and subplots and all of it. Tolkien is utterly responsible for every bit of that story, right? Every character, every plot, every subplot, every description. He's completely responsible. He's involved in every nook and cranny of it. But he's not in the story. He's not in the book. You're not going to find him as a character in the book. So that's the category mistake of the atheist in a way is, I'm looking for God. He's a character in this story somewhere. No, he's the author of the story, mysteriously present to every aspect of the story, but not a character in it.
Wow, that's so good. The fact God is the author of our story. He's the author of everything. Just imagine he would use J.R.R. Tolkien as a writer of the Lord of the Rings. When you think about it, he is the writer, but he doesn't put himself into the book. He's outside of the book. He's not even known in this story, but he is known. We know that he wrote the story. But God wrote all of our stories. He wrote all of the universe. He's the author, but he still placed himself kind of not like everyone else, but he's within the story. So a lot of times atheists thinks he's sometimes this character that we have to decide if we should follow him or not, but really he's way outside of the story as well as an author. He is writing our story each and every day, and it's something obviously I still don't completely understand or comprehend. And that's okay. But I still choose to have faith and trust in Jesus because we do know one character that God put in the story and put himself in the story, and that's Jesus, to pay the price that we deserve because we've fallen short of God's glory. We all have sinned and we've all messed up. That's why we needed a Savior. That's why we need Jesus. And why do we need Jesus? Because God is the author. He has standards for holiness, and we've fallen short of those standards. But how do you pay for that price? Well, have a sacrifice. And Jesus was that sacrifice, the ultimate sacrifice. So I encourage you guys to go to Jesus today and know that he loves you and he has an amazing plan for your life. All right, guys, please comment down below your thoughts. And if you haven't, please like this video and subscribe. And you also might like this video here. Peace.